I was taking a drive from Maine to Upper New York to spend the week with family. I left right after work around 5:30 p.m., so I didn't anticipate getting there until past 1 a.m. I had to top off my Jeep Wrangler so I could enjoy the warm weather. Somewhere in Vermont well past midnight, the gas light flicked on and the car started beeping. The gas gauge in the car was broken, so there was no way to gauge how much gas was left. My brother, who drove the car the previous day, had said he filled it up to the top, but clearly he was mistaken. One of those blue service line signs zoomed past. I saw a gas station symbol and took the exit onto a desolate road. Shortly after, the car started jittering and came to a complete halt. I had run out of gas. I got out and called AAA, who said they could be there in about 20 minutes. For about 15 minutes, I strolled around my car, texting friends and checking social media. It was completely quiet, no traffic, no passing cars, just crickets and night creatures in the woods. Then I heard footsteps walking in the woods. At first, I thought it was a deer, but then I heard 2 claps like someone clapping their hands. I moved closer to listen, and it happened again. 3 claps. I called out to the woods, hoping someone would respond. Nothing. Then I saw it, a head peeking from behind a tree just ahead. It almost looked lifeless. The eyes were blank, and I couldn't tell if they were looking at me. I cranked the windows up and turned off the headlights, but hiding in the car didn't make me feel safer since the top was off. I ducked below the dashboard, doors locked, hoping not to hear any sudden sounds. Then I felt someone grab the car door handle. I froze, expecting them to start pounding on the glass or reach inside. Then I felt a hand aggressively grab my back. I screamed at the top of my lungs. Suddenly, the hand released its grip, and light began filling the area. A AAA truck pulled up, and the person grabbing me was gone. I ran outside to greet the man, who was in his 40s. His calm presence was reassuring. He filled my car with gas, and we went our separate ways. Even though the memory of that night is still haunting, the image of the lifeless head peering around the tree is permanently imprinted in my brain. The GPS said the detour would only add 7 minutes. That's the only reason I followed it. I'd been driving since late afternoon, and I was trying to reach a motel in Eureka before midnight. Highway 101 had a construction zone near the coast, and traffic had slowed down to a crawl. When my GPS suggested an alternate route, I took it without thinking much about it. The first few miles felt normal. I turned off the May Highway onto a smaller 2-lane road. It wasn't a big deal. I've taken back roads all my life. But after about 10 minutes, I noticed something strange. There were no houses, no lights, no mailboxes. Usually even rural stretches have signs of life. This one didn't. The road started narrowing, not by a huge amount, just subtle enough that most people wouldn't register it right away. The asphalt looked older too, faded in some places, patched in others, like it hadn't been maintained in years. I checked my phone. No signal. That wasn't unusual for the area, but it meant I was relying entirely on the GPS map that had already begun to act weird. The route line jittered for a second before settling again. Another 10 minutes passed. I didn't see a single car. No headlights behind me. No one coming from the opposite direction. Just darkness and trees. I don't scare easily, but something about that road made me feel like I wasn't supposed to be there. The GPS said I'd reconnect with the highway in 8 more miles. That calmed me down a bit. I figured I'd just push through and get back on 101. Then I came around a bend and saw a wooden sign on the right side. It was old, leaning at an angle. At first I thought it said private property, but when I slowed down to read it better, I saw it didn't say anything at all. The board was blank. The paint had worn off completely, leaving only the shape of letters you couldn't make out anymore. I kept driving. The trees felt like they were getting closer to the edge of the road. The branches hung over the asphalt, almost like an archway. My headlights looked dimmer than usual, and the engine sounded louder, echoing strangely off the trees. A mile later, the GPS rerouted itself again. This time the voice said, "In 400 feet, turn right." There was no road on the right, just a thick wall of trees. The map showed a road there, clear as day, but my headlights showed nothing but forest. I drove past it slowly, waiting to see if maybe I'd missed a dirt path, or if there was something hidden in the brush. But no, the GPS wanted me to drive into the woods. I ignored it and kept straight. A few seconds later it said, "Rerouting," and the screen froze for a moment. When it came back, the map was blank except for the icon showing my car in the middle. No roads, no landmarks, just an empty background. That's when I realized something was definitely wrong. I decided to turn around and retrace my route back to the highway. I slowed down, found a wide patch of shoulder, and started backing up to make a three-point turn. Something about pointing the car back the way I came made me nervous, but I didn't want to keep going deeper into an area where the GPS clearly didn't know what it was doing. When I straightened the wheel and started driving back, it took me about a minute before I noticed something that made my stomach drop. This wasn't the road I came from. It looked similar at first. Trees, faded asphalt, same canopy overhead, but the curves were different. The way the branches hung over the road looked wrong. The shoulder felt narrower, and when I looked in my mirrors, the road behind me faded into darkness faster than it should have. I drove for 10 minutes without seeing the blank sign again. I didn't pass any of the landmarks I'd already seen. It felt like I'd been switched to a different version of the same road. I told myself I was just tired, that maybe I'd missed my own tracks. But deep down, I knew I hadn't. I decided I wouldn't stop the car again unless I had no choice. I just kept moving, hoping I'd eventually see something familiar. Another few minutes in, I saw headlights coming toward me. I slowed down a little, relieved. Finally, another car. As it got closer, it flashed its high beams once. Then again, I rolled down my window as we passed, planning to wave them down. But the other car braked hard and came to a stop in the middle of the road. Headlights pointed straight ahead. I pulled over on my side and stopped too. I didn't get out. I just lowered the passenger side window a bit, waiting to see if they'd do the same. The driver's door opened. A man stepped out wearing a jacket and jeans. He didn't run toward me, but he walked quickly, like someone who needed to warn me about something. I kept my hand on the lock button as he approached. He stopped a few feet from my window and said, "You shouldn't be on this road. Turn around." His voice was steady, not panicked, but firm in a way that didn't leave much room for negotiation. I asked him what he meant. He shook his head. "Just turn around. Don't go any farther." I told him I already tried that, and the road didn't match what I'd come from. He looked at me for a long moment, like he was deciding whether to say more. Then he said, "That's because you missed your chance, but you still have time. Turn around now." I asked him what was down the road ahead. He didn't answer immediately. He just stared past my car, toward the direction I'd been heading. His face changed, not with fear exactly, but with something close to it, like someone remembering a mistake they made a long time ago. Finally, he said, "Keep driving that way, and you won't come back on the road you think you're on." He stepped back, looked over his shoulder at his car, and said, "I'm not going further either." I didn't know what else to say. I thanked him, rolled up the window, and watched him walk back to his car. He got in, turned around, and drove back the way he'd come. I put the car in reverse, turned around again, and started heading back. This time I didn't let myself question whether the road matched or not. I just kept going, focusing on staying straight. After maybe 15 minutes, my phone buzzed. A single bar of service appeared. The GPS screen flickered, and the normal map snapped back into place. I wasn't on the detour anymore. I was on a side road, just a couple miles from the main highway. I merged back onto 101 around 1:20 a.m., shaken but relieved. I never found the construction zone again. I passed the area the next morning on my way back north, and traffic was moving normally. No detour signs, no workers, nothing. I still don't know what road I ended up on that night, and I've never been able to figure out how the man I met got there or how he knew exactly where I was going. Was driving my rig through northern Minnesota, a long stretch between Duluth and Bemidji. It was late, and the temperature had dropped below freezing. The roads were slick in patches, and I was keeping a steady 25 behind a logging truck. The moon was low, barely lighting the ice-coated asphalt. I noticed a figure on the shoulder, thumb out, trying to hitch a ride. I slowed, pulled over, and rolled down my window. The person was bundled in a heavy coat, scarf covering most of their face. I asked where they were headed, and they said just up the highway. Normally, I wouldn't pick up strangers, but it was freezing, and I had room. I told them to get in. The moment they settled into the passenger seat, I noticed something off. The seatbelt clicked, and the person didn't speak at first, just stared straight ahead. After a few minutes, they said my name. Not in a joking way, just casually, like they'd known it all their life. "Michael," they said. I nearly swerved. I checked the mirrors, then back at the seat, but no one was around. I asked how they knew my name. They shrugged. "I've known it for a while." I tried to laugh it off. "Well, that's a little creepy, don't you think?" They didn't respond, just leaned back, arms crossed. After another half hour, they started mentioning things about me I hadn't told anyone. "Your daughter doesn't like the spaghetti you make. She says you always overcook it." I froze. Nobody knew that. Not my dispatcher, not my wife, nobody. They continued. "You usually check your mirrors twice before leaving the lot. Then again just past the highway sign. You were thinking about skipping the gas station stop, but you decided against it." I gripped the wheel tighter, heart pounding. This was more than coincidence. I kept trying to reason it out. Maybe someone had been following me all day, memorizing my routine. But the details kept coming, and they were specific, personal, down to thoughts I'd only had in the shower that morning. I tried to distract myself by focusing on the road, but the passenger kept speaking. "You dreamt about the accident last week. You woke up sweating, thinking you could have avoided it." My stomach dropped. That was private. I hadn't told anyone. By now, I wasn't driving smoothly anymore. I slowed, thinking about stopping at the next rest area. But as soon as I mentioned it aloud, the hitchhiker said, "Don't stop. You'll regret it." I didn't know what to do. Every instinct told me to pull over and run, but the roads were empty. The cabin heat didn't feel warm anymore. I focused on the lights ahead, keeping the rig steady. Hours passed, or maybe it was minutes. I had no sense of time. The highway seemed endless, and the hitchhiker never looked at me, never moved, but continued listing details about my life, predicting my next moves. I realized they could anticipate everything I did. Every time I touched the wheel, shifted gears, or even exhaled, they commented as if they had been watching for years. Eventually, the sun started to rise. I was exhausted, my mind spinning. I saw a small diner on the side of the road and decided to pull in, hoping the change of setting would end this. I turned into the lot, parked, and glanced at the passenger seat. The seat was empty. No coat, no scarf, nothing. I checked the mirrors, the area around the truck. Nothing. I stepped out, doors locked. Heart still racing. I asked the diner staff if they'd seen anyone walking down the highway. They shook their heads. I never saw the hitchhiker again, but the details they revealed about me stayed.